In the Pits is partnered with QBR. Founded in 2021 and based here in Texas, QBR seeks to elevate the cannabinoid industry to a new standard of professionalism and education, while also providing the highest quality product. Whether you are seeking to heal and recover from the toll that paintball puts on the mind and body, or even looking for investment opportunities through adult vending machines, QBR has the solution for you. Head to QBRofficial.com to browse their selection. QBR, they don't sell broccoli. In the Pits is partnered with 71 Designs, owned and operated by veteran Wade Martin, and partnered with fellow Texas brand Compete. 71 Designs can take your ideas for soft goods, merchandise, and casual wear and make them a reality. Message 71 Designs on Facebook or Instagram to get started today. In the Pits is partnered with Mariachi Águilas de Oro. Based in Austin and servicing the surrounding areas, these golden eagles will bring life to any event you are having, from birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, corporate events, or even a simple performance to enjoy. Guillermo Padilla, one of their trumpet players, is also a member of the Texas paintball scene. Visit them on Facebook and Instagram to check out some of their past performances, or give them a call to book them for your event today. In the Pits is partnered with Hydra. Designed by players for players, you can outfit yourself in Hydra gear from head to toe. Have confidence that when you make a purchase from Hydra, you are purchasing a well-tested and well-thought-out product, trusted by several top teams, including first-place semi-pro team PaintballFit.com. I personally recommend their Hydra Black knee pads. Purchases over $100 receive free shipping. Head to hydra.fit to browse their selection and discover the Hydra mentality. In the Pits is partnered with XTPL Events. The Extreme Tournament Paintball League is a series put on by the Lukow family of Paintball Fit fame that gives the opportunity for players to learn and grow together as a team. 3-man, Challengers and Champions X-Ball, Draft Mech X-Ball, and even Youth 3v3. There's something for everyone at XTPL. Not to mention prize tosses, raffles, and the infamous paintball munching contest. Events happen throughout the year, and the prizes never disappoint. Sign up for an XTPL event today on PB Leagues. In the Pits is partnered with TexanHemp.com, locally shipped cannabis seeds. In a world where saving time means making money, TexanHemp.com, a local cannabis seed bank owned and operated by local Texas pro player Jared Sherman, is making waves by becoming the go-to source for all cannabis genetics in Texas. Carrying a large assortment of cannabis cultivars, including Texas-approved varieties for use in the Texas Hemp Program, high THCA seeds for novelty use, as well as premium genetics bred for solventless extraction, TexanHemp.com has the ability to satisfy even the most sophisticated collectors. Head to TexanHemp.com and use code INTHEPITS for 10% off of your orders. In the Pits is partnered with Podrunners Union. Podrunners Union breaking news. Super limited Union Tech Tees and, for the first time, Fiesta medals are available online at podrunnersunion.org. Use offer code PITS for 10% off of your order. Stealing pods for undeserving teams. It's a living. In the Pits is partnered with Compete. Compete is a Texas-based brand by Jell Stewart of professional team AC Diesel that provides custom jerseys, pants, headbands, straps, tech shirts, and any other soft goods to help individuals and teams compete at the highest level. Support Texas Paintball and message Compete on Facebook or Instagram and mention In the Pits Podcast for 10% off your entire order. In the Pits is partnered with BEM Wraps. Behind every mask is a unique and creative player. Tap into it when you order your next custom headpiece. Their Build-A-Band lets you communicate with them one-on-one to make your order just the way you want, all the way down to the color of the stitch. Check out their Instagram at BEMWraps for drops and build videos of them working on orders. They offer very competitive pricing, so reach out today to get started on your own one-of-a-kind headpiece. In the Pits is partnered with Get Dat Shot. Get Dat Shot is now accepting bookings for the upcoming NXL Mid-Atlantic Major and will also be offering drone footage for the first time. Head to GetDat_shot on Facebook or Instagram to secure your media coverage today. In the Pits is partnered with Paintball Kumite. Paintball Kumite is a program designed by Colt Roberts of professional team San Antonio X Factor to take paintball players of all ages, experience levels, and skill groups and mold them into champions. The program breaks the game down into small, easy-to-learn sessions designed to help you master the fundamentals so that you can elevate your game. Newcomers to the program get a free 1-hour introductory class when mentioning In the Pits. To sign up for a class, message at Paintball Comité on Instagram. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 108 of In the Pits Paintball Podcast. This podcast is focused on everything that has to do with the paintball scene here in Texas, from professional players and teams to new divisional programs, local tournament series, field owners, Texas-based brands, even photographers and videographers. Every week, we'll have a short and sweet episode with a new topic and new special guest. I'm Christian Dallas Smith. I'm a player for the Texas Titans, and this episode we're going in the pits with Pierce Comeaux, local Texas referee and player for newly reborn Grit. Pierce, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good, man. How are you doing?
Doing great. It's been good to see you at the field again. We've been missing. Grit's been kind of one of like the crown jewels of Texas divisional paintball, and it's been missing for a while. I know they tried to do like the Grit X thing like 2 or 3 years ago, but now it seems like y'all are like officially back to how things like originally were.
Yeah, it is good to be back. I feel like we all kind of took a few years of a sabbatical. But yeah, the OG Grit, as we like to call it, is back minus a few guys that are either playing pro or not playing paintball anymore. But I'd like to think that the core is still intact, so it's good.
I know that for some of your core, it's like some of your guys are still ranked too high. Like I know, Anthony, for example, like he's probably still pretty high up there. So I'm sure we'll see him soon whenever y'all officially come back. I guess I don't know what the plans exactly are for the organization, but
yeah, I mean, if if Anthony can re-rank from pro down, or if we can just create an APPA for him with a different name, we would gladly have Anthony back anytime. But yeah, I think he's probably got to sit out for another like 5 or 6 years before he can play a USXBL.
Yeah, playing a couple of events on San Antonio X Factor is going to do that to you.
Right. Yeah, a second place at World Cup, I think, that's crushing his points right now.
Definitely. So, Pierce, let's go ahead and get started. This first one's brought to us by XTPL Events. So for those listening that maybe don't know about you, how long have you been involved in the Texas paintball scene?
So Texas paintball is 2017. So I moved here to Austin from Louisiana, and knew that like immediately when I got here, I wanted to really jump into like speedball and airball, because as much as the Hurricanes now have come onto the scene back in New Orleans, there was not like a circuit or a series to play there. And we really only had like 1 or 2 fields in the state. So when I got here, that was the first thing I wanted to really jump in and try and find a team. So yeah, since 2017, I've been playing and on and off a couple of years, probably like most paintball guys, but newly back and ready to see what the USXBL season can do for us. So.
Yeah, 2017 was a good year for Texas. That's for sure. If you look back at that year, just even across the national scene, Texas teams did very, very well. I think like AC Dallas was starting to really come up. And I think that might have been Shut Up or Trying's first year, and they ended up winning D5. So
I remember I was playing with Notorious at the time. We were playing the USXBL, and we were battling like TOG in the finals, and TOG was so solid. I mean, that was a time when I remember hearing like rumors that like both the brothers were going to go play for like AC Dallas or AC Diesel, and we were playing them in the D4, like semifinals, and that was a very competitive D4 that year. It still is, but the fallout after that event after that season, some of the teams, I think they went on to win, they moved to D3 and they won an NXL that year. They won Vegas the following year, so they were good.
Yeah, I'm looking at the National League like season rankings for 2017. Yeah, Shut Up or Trying comes onto the scene for the first time. They win the Texas Open and then they go and win World Cup in D5 5-man, and then over in D4 X Ball, you've got Notorious getting second place in the series. You've got Texas Phalanx winning the Texas Open. It was definitely a crazy year in the Texas scene.
I remember we were leading for the series going into the last USXPL, and I think, gosh, I'm trying to remember what Franz told us. We had to like finish like I don't know top 6 or something to win the series so that we could get. At that point, USXPL was helping pay your entry for Cup, and so we were like, all right, if we win this event or we place top 4, we'll finish the series and get our paint paid for and everything. And I think we like crapped the bed. I don't know what's it say on AP. I think we got like 12th or something.
It says
like
15th.
15th. Yeah, we had our worst showing at Fit. Yeah, that was a bummer.
Yeah, I mean, looking at these teams that are, man, some of these names just bring me back. You've got TOG, of course. You've got Apex, Greed still around. You know, PPS, SFO, Austin Weird. Like 4 of those guys are on the Titans now.
Yeah.
I
remember playing the Apex and like Trenton Mason was playing with them, and I think Colt LaCal for an event, and now they're like Fit, and it's wild that that year and the teams there, like just Notorious, we had Marky and Anthony. They arguably pro players today. Marky is obviously, so it was like there was like breadcrumbs of paintball greatness at that season for sure.
Yep, all of these great players that are now well known, at least across Texas, if not some of these players having some national impact, like started there. Right. Like, I mean, you said the brothers on TOG, Mark and Michael, they are like, I mean, look at the New Orleans Hurricanes now. You know, that's where they are.
It's crazy. That's it's for me, like the Hurricanes are the guys that taught me like how to play back in Louisiana. So to finally see them get their due is probably the most. It's got to be the most rewarding thing for them. But it's great because I remember just being like a junior high school kid, and like Stuart Ridgedale's buying paint for me at the window at the paintball field, and now he's playing Dynasty in the finals. It's awesome to see them have the success that they've earned.
Yeah. And it's also, I bet it's a little validating. You're like going through 2017, 2018, competing in Texas, and you're like, this is difficult. Like, what is going on here? And then like all these guys show up in pro.
What's crazy is like the disparity of my first event ever was 2013 when the PSP was still, RIP, Lane Wright. I played I guess it would be the West Coast Open at that time, and I played D3X ball against like Collision and Wolfpack, and I think we won one event, we won one match. To then go play like USXPL like 2 to 3 years later, I would say the USXPL was far more competitive than the D3, and it was just because PSP was a little different back in the day. You still had the sideline coaching and everything, but when USXPL is, if not probably outside of the NXL and the WCPBL, it's got to be the top league in the country right now.
Definitely. I mean, that's what like anybody in Texas like that competes in the NXL, like the Titans, Jackpot, any of those really good teams, Notorious, even in D4 and D5, like we all say like, hey, NXL is honestly easier until you get to Sunday than USXPL. And once you get to Sunday, then it's like, all right, this is more of what we would expect. Whereas in USXPL, like every single game is a Sunday caliber team.
Yeah. And that's tough because it's like on the NXL, you're going to get like people, it's a draw in your bracket, right? You get the teams that are either a throw together event or maybe it's their second or third one. In USXPL, like these teams are playing every event because it's local. So it's the level of play and I guess just like the camaraderie that teams have because it's not as much of a commitment to play regional than it is a national event. And I think you get more like consistent like competition in the regional than you do at the national. I think that kind of after you get out of D4, D3, like the top half is consistent, and then obviously D2 and up is it's the same teams, and you're going to get like a good draw every event. But yeah, I would say like winning a D4 USXBL event is tougher than probably an NXL one. Plus, because there's like sometimes like less teams depending on the event.
Yeah, I mean, especially this year, USXBL has really expanded their team count. Like I'm looking at the signups right now. There's 28 teams paid in Division 4 out of
Right.
cap of 30. You know, the Elite Division is maxed out. D5X Ball has 15 out of 20. I mean, that's more teams than you're going to find than in the NXL Division 5.
Right.
And yeah, it's really tough, man. And here in the chat, Doc, who's a regular over on the Spick and Span chat, he says Texas produces great players. Texas paintball is just levels above other states, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing that Texas has got going for them is the number of fields in this state is bonkers to me. I mean, from growing up in Louisiana, we had like 2 fields, maybe 3 when I was later on in like college. That was Paintball Command, and then that was like LAX. And LAX in the last few years, you know, because now they have the Hurricanes as their premier field, as the premier field. I mean, we didn't have a lot to like travel to or you know really competition. We get like a team or two from Mississippi that would come over and play us, but Texas has like we were talking before. There's like I'm in Austin. There's like 10 fields within a 2-hour drive from me, which is just wild in terms of paintball. When in some states, you know, you gotta drive 3 or 4 hours to get to a field. So it just like shows that Texas paintball is. I used to always like tell my friends that when I played, like, oh, California is like the mecca of paintball, and I'd like argue now that like Texas has probably claimed that or can claim it now.
For sure. So, Pierce, what are some of the teams that you've played for during your time in the game?
Yeah, when I first started playing competitively, I played for a team out of Paintball Command. It was called PBC Army. We were just a D4 at that time. It was race to 4, I think, in PSP, if I remember back correctly. It's crazy too because Jacob Seawright played with me, and now he's pro playing on the Hurricanes. And so I remember he played in front of me on the Snake. But I played for them when I was just first getting into speedball or airball, whatever you want to call it. I really grew up playing like woods ball. I was like a woods ball kid. I loved scenarios. Used to travel all over the country and play those. Like I played a Living Legends my senior year of high school. Always wanted to play like D-Day. But yeah, I did 2 years of playing competitive there, and we tried to play NXL. So I played some, or I guess PSP still at that time. When I moved to Texas, that's when I was like, all right, I'm going to try and give the competitive paintball thing a shot. I played with Notorious for a season. I think in Texas, if you haven't played for Mark Franz or Notorious, either you're going to or you already have. He seems to find everyone at some point. So I checked my box and played with Notorious, and that's how I met some of the guys that I now play with on Grit. And so when Notorious kind of, you know, we all went kind of our separate ways at the end of the year, Grit formed, and I'd been with them honestly ever since. So that was 2018 to 2020, and then we took our little sabbatical, and now we're here in the middle of 2024, and we're kind of back on the lam. So,
All right, yeah, I know. I mean, I definitely have some Notorious events on my PB Leagues profile, and I mean, everybody seems to go through Mark Franz at some point.
it's a rite of passage, man. I think you know you haven't played paintball in Texas if you haven't you know been in the pits with Mark Franz, and he's he's yelling at you to wipe people down and clean pods, and always you know you got to take more pods than you lose pods.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
yeah, it's a rite of passage.
Definitely. I mean, he's I know he has many names for himself, one of those being the Good Shepherd of Texas paintball, but I mean, you
Yeah.
can probably find over 100 people that have played for the Notorious program at some point. He brings a lot of people into tournament play.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this question is brought to us by QBRofficial.com, which is QR codes here on the screen. Check that out. So, Pierce, what was it that got you into playing paintball to begin with?
I had 2 buddies in really it was like junior high, like 7th and 8th grade that kind of played here and there. And so they took me out one time. I played. I actually, that same weekend, uh, got a job at the field as like a paintball referee. And not like referee like today's age of
Mm.
refing in USXBLs. You know, this is like a paintball field ref, so you're more about like the safety, and like birthday parties and stuff. So that's what kept me close to paintball really for my 4 years of high school and then 2 or 3 years into college. When I tell you, like, I used to play ref Saturday, so and just spend the same money that I made on Saturday to play on Sunday. I did that for numerous years. Um, and then yeah, I don't know. Paintball has always kind of been something that like stuck for me. It's like such like a different sport that I never wanted to give it up. And so even just like even in college, I found time to play. My roommate and I headed up the LSU paintball club for our senior year of college. And so yeah, it's been something that I always want to continue to do. And I mean, even when I wasn't playing for 2020 to, you know, before the beginning of the summer, I still tried to find a way to kind of like stay close to it. And that was like, you know, the reffing thing was an opportunity to kind of like still be part of it. And then, you know, I like to still go and play the scenarios. So I've been up to official a few times with Taylor, and we camp out, and we play the events, and Mark Johnson shoots me in the back by accident. And, you know, it's it's a fun thing to do, man. And I don't ever see myself not being close to it in some capacity. So yeah.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing. Like I was telling my wife the other day, like we were watching this I don't know if you watch any of like the Netflix originals, but they have a bunch of different like competition shows, and I'm into like they have a barbecue competition show on there. And I was really into it because they have this season they have like a couple of contestants from Texas. They've got one from Austin, one from Houston.
Yeah.
And I had this dream about barbecue, and it was like a cool thing because it's like something like a life goal of mine is just to be able to like smoke briskets whenever and just like serve them, you know. And I had this dream. It was like after I was done play with my playing days of paintball, but I went to the field with this massive brisket that I made, and I was serving it to like the pro team San Antonio X Factor, and then in my dream like the Titans had made semi-pro, so I was just like serving food to everybody there. So it's like, shoot, even in my dreams, like, and I'm retired and stuff, I'm still around the game. So
Yeah.
it's like, I can't imagine, you know, just going
Yeah.
away from the community completely. Like, I'll still be involved some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, life without paintball is honestly, I think, a sad life for some folks. Yeah, I have my intentions to always stay close to it, and for me, like, I think with paintball, there's some players that they play and they can like either like phase in or they phase out, which I think that happens every year. We see that, but then there's I think it's like something that you guys do with the Titans, right? Like you kind of like found a community, a group there that if you're gonna like play, you're like it's gonna be with this group of guys, and that's kind of like what Grit's kind of been for me is like I don't think I would play for any other team. And like to be honest, like I've been asked to play for other teams, and I've just been like, listen, it's not if it's not Grit, like I don't want it. And I think it's just because like we've been through so much, and like some of these guys are like my best friends. Like I'll get married one day, like they'll be in my wedding, and that's kind of like that's like the best thing about it is like when you do win or when you and right now, you know, we're playing USXPL, so we're not playing NXLs like we were, right? Um, it there is kind of like such a good feeling of you know to kind of like sit around again and say like, damn, like we're still doing this, even though like you know we've been on this like crazy ride and like the highs and the lows and all the travel and all the expenses. Um, it's like so refreshing to kind of just like still sit there with the same guys and be like, you know, like we've like kind of gone through war in a sense, so much adversity, and it's these guys like some of my closest friends, like I say. And I really couldn't play with anybody else, and I won't, to be frank. Like, and Taylor and I, like, because there was when we would ref, Taylor and I would room together at the USXBLs. We're like, should we play next season? Like, who should we play with? Like, could we? We always like talked about it, and then just never. It just, if it wasn't with like with the core, it just didn't feel right. So, yeah.
Yeah, I totally see that. I mean, we were lucky enough to have Taylor with us last season in Bunkerfest, and
Right.
it was a good time to have him, around with us. But like, we can also tell, like, hey, like being around y'all, like his OG boys, that's just where he belongs. And I feel like everybody that's been in the game long enough has that crew.
Yeah. Like, they realize, like, well, here we go. If we go play this Violence Open or whatever in next month or at the end of the month, we crap the bed. We're still gonna have a good time, and we're still gonna have fun, and we're gonna, like, our cup's gonna be full after. And I think that that's what our goal is. Setting out and playing again. Are we gonna be hopping around the country playing NXLs like we did for those 2 or 3 years? Probably not. No. Real life's kind of caught up with most of the guys, including myself. But it's the fact that we can still get back together and play and compete in some capacity that's the most rewarding thing, and still do it with the guys that we've kind of forged our careers together.
Yeah, definitely. And here in the chat, Doc is kind of saying more on that. He says paintball helps with more than just being a sport. For him, it's kept him sober and out of trouble a few days before hitting 2 years now, and he's never been happier. Paintball saved his life. Man, that's awesome. Congratulations, Doc.
Yeah. Oh my God. I think about all that all the time. I mean, growing up where I did, not that it was like a bad area or anything, but if I wasn't playing paintball on the weekends, like the amount of trouble I probably would have found myself in, or like what my arrest record would look like today, like, it kept me out of trouble. And yeah, it's there's a lot that I think people that maybe haven't played for a while, or if they have played for a while, they like overlook kind of what paintball has brought to them and, like, offered them. That's why I have a brother who plays, and he's kind of been like in and out when he can. And my thing that I've always told him was, like, respect the game. Like, don't take it for granted, because it is such like a cool, intricate, unique sport. So yeah, I want to always, like, say I want to be an ambassador for paintball, because it's I feel like we're like the 1% of people. Like, not a lot of people play paintball, or they stop after that after that church group that they played when they were 10. But we've found a crazy way to, like, keep doing this thing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's plenty of people that I know from like other states that I've competed against, or like I know their name, like like that I know personally now, and like I see them at events. I'm like, oh hey, like we talk, like, we've been friends for a long time. Guys like even Matt the Gym Rat, or Steven Patterson,
Right.
or guys up in New York. Like there's no other sport does that. So
I have something out there. My favorite thing is, I have to travel for work sometimes. I love, like, being in the airport, and if I see, like, anything paintball paraphernalia related, right, like a GI logo, like an Empire logo, you're immediately kind of like, oh, do I know these people? And it could, and the odds are you potentially are. You could know them, but it's like, that's like the fun and funniest thing to do. Yeah.
I haven't had that yet at an airport, but
Especially when you're, like, not traveling for paintball. Because, like, if you fly out of Austin or you fly out of Dallas 9 out of 10 times for, like, an NXL event, you're probably run into the fit guys. You'll run into
right.
like the shut up guys. But it's got to be like, you're going to, like, Cancun or something, and, like, guy rolls by with, like, an Eclipse bag. You're like, hold on, like, have I seen this guy before?
Right, definitely. So this next one's brought to us by Sasha, Pod Runners Union. Going back to when you were, like, first moved to Texas, you were climbing the ranks quickly. You were playing a mix of Division 4 and Division 3 from like 2017 to 2018, and then by the end of 2018, you were playing Division 2 at World Cup. So what was that like to climb so quickly?
Yeah, I mean, I think reality hit for me was like D3. And that year, D3 was Notorious, who now Pro Notorious was playing D3. TOG was there. That was a tough D3. And I think that's kind of like where real paintball starts. So, not to like downplay anyone that's playing D4, but D3 is like these are seasoned players. Either they've played farther than D3 and then they've like, sat a year out or something. But that is like really the cutthroat of paintball. And we had success in D3. And we kind of collectively, we set a goal at the beginning of the year of, if we're going to be successful in D3, we'll decide on what we're going to do at Cup. And I remember we went to Cup and we played D2, and we were a little, I don't want to think like starstruck, but we left the event. Granted, we didn't do hot. We like finished middle of the pack. We left knowing that we could compete in D2. It was, if anything, more confidence building for us to say like, okay, we weren't crazy. Like we are a solid team. We have a solid core. We know what we probably need to work on or where we have like some gaps, like in, we need another attacker on this side or we need another one or a better three or something. But I think playing a full season in D3, I mean, you really kind of like, you cut your teeth, as Matty Marshall would say. And that is, if you can make it through a good season of D3 and finish top of the pack like you guys are doing now, I think it really adds to the confidence for the team. And that's kind of like the scary thing. I forget like what interview I've listened to. It's like Ollie or Ryan Greenspan when they're like, scariest thing is a team that's really confident. Yeah, and I think D3 will do that for you.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, for us, like this is our second year in D3. Last year
Right.
we were like consistently, I think like 7th place at Bunkerfest. Like 3 events in a row. We got 7th place at NXL
Right.
Texas, which I mean, at NXL it was like, oh, we made quarterfinals. But in Bunkerfest, it was like we were the first team out
Yeah.
for 3 events in a row. And then Bunkerfest championships hit, we make the finals. So it's like, okay, we're starting to figure it out in D3. Vegas comes this year. We get 2nd place in Vegas. So it's like basically
Right.
exactly where we left off. And then we win Texas. So it's like D3 is a very tough division that you should probably expect in order to like learn all the lessons that are there in D3. You should expect to play there for 2 years at least, if not 3.
Yeah. It's interesting though that you guys kind of like, you get your first taste of success, like you finish at that Bunker Fest, and then the next event you guys are kind of already like springboarding up. That's what I think, that's like an element of that confidence of like, you kind of look around and you're like, damn, we can do this, because so much of paintball is losing. It really is. Like if you don't win the event, you kind of lost. Even if like your goal was like, let's make Sunday, let's get out of the prelims, right? Let's like get top 4. I mean, if you don't win the event, you lose. So when you finally get one under your belt, and granted, I've only got like one, there is like an element of like, shit, all right, like we do have the ability, like it is within our reach, it is capable. So I'm interested to see what you guys do for the rest of the year, especially coming off like the mud event, which like I've won one just like that, or not as muddy, but in the mud. And it's just like, those are the ones that are the craziest, because there's variables that are added in there too that wouldn't be on just like a normal, above the water field.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who's been there knows it's like ultimately, like when you're in the moment, you don't really think about it because everybody's dealing with the same thing. So
Right.
it's like it's all equal at the end. But
Right.
like, yeah, that one was definitely special, for sure. And I know, like for me personally, having played, like I've been playing an average of like 8 or 9 events a year for the last couple of years now. I know for me, I'm haven't adopted like, if we don't get first place, then it's a disappointment, because I don't know. I think that's a very quick way to burn yourself out of the
Yeah.
game, which that has been something that I personally have had to learn, is like how to address the player burnout and still like have love for the game in the moment, like
Yeah.
week to week. So for me, it's like, hey,
Yeah.
if we podium, then I consider it a successful event. Like, and even outside of that, even if we don't, I probably still had a great time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Yeah.
I think you bring up a good point. I think so much of at least the competitive scene when you're early on and you're really trying to kind of get your feet under you and understand like really like what is competitive paintball, like
Mhm.
how does this entire mechanism work? Is those like mini goals of like, all right, it's our first event, like let's win half our matches, you know, and in the other two, let's like be competitive. And then next event, right? Like let's get out of the prelims, let's play in the ochos. I think you got to set yourself small goals because
Mhm.
you know if you're gonna lose if you don't win the event, and that to your point, it's like leads to the burnout, leads to kind of the frustrations of paintball. And yeah, I know we definitely took that approach, especially our first year in D2 was like I remember we played Vegas and we got fifth. Um, we I think we lost a zone at the time. Um, our first goal was just to get out of the prelims and play on Sunday. And you know that again, that's kind of goes back to that confidence piece of setting a small goal, make it attainable. You know, not out of reach, but attainable. And then you know, if we would have said let's win the first event, I don't know if we would have won or been as competitive for the rest of the year because you know you get in your head of like shit, can we do this? Like, are we competitive? So yeah, small goals are definitely the right way of going about it,
Mhm.
especially early on to help kind of just like you know build the camaraderie with the team and the core. I think the core is very important in paintball. Um, yeah,
Definitely, and I would argue that it's almost required in order to be successful. Is you have to be able to build yourself up over time to set yourself up for success eventually. Because if you're trying to expect to like, hey, we're going from Division 4 to Division 3 this year, we're going to expect to make the finals our very first event. Like that
yeah,
is a unrealistic goal, and even if you were a very good Division 4 team, like Division 3 is just a whole other animal. And like
right,
I would argue that in any division you have to like have that experience of like, hey, I might make game on Sunday and then we lose on Sunday because we're still playing prelim ball instead of playing Sunday ball. Like things like that where you have to, sometimes just learn the lessons the hard way in order to set yourself up for success in the future.
yeah. It's definitely like Sunday paintball too. Is that's a you are at that point playing the best of the best within your division, and so D3 Sunday is definitely man. It's like a flip of the coin sometimes because especially with the NXL, right? You can get those teams in there that have like haven't played in 2 or 3 years, and like these guys are killers. And so like if you don't have any kind of like you think you like if you squeezed into Sunday, rude awakening. You know, it's yeah D3 will eat you up.
Definitely. So, kind of speaking of success at NXL, and this question's brought to us by BEMRAP. So, in 2019, Grit went Division 2. You guys won the Texas Open, which was that pretty muddy event for anybody who was
Yeah.
there. I was there.
Well, which one
Um,
hasn't been muddy at this
right,
rate?
right. And you guys ended up taking third for the season in D2. So, why do you think it was that Grit saw success so quickly after entering D2?
um, we made like a an effort to travel. We were practicing diesel that season, and when I tell you, like Dallas or Brandon would be like, all right, we're going up to Fit. We're playing diesel for the weekend. I'd like be at work on Friday, like, gosh, like, oof, this is gonna be like, it's gonna hurt. And I mean, at that point, they were playing semi-pro. It's actually kind of a funny story with diesel. Every time we practiced them, we both finished the same. So like, we practiced them. They won the Dallas event that we won. And then like I forget if it was like Atlantic City or New Jersey. We practiced them and they got like the same fourth place as we got or third place. But we went up and played them and I mean they beat the brakes off of us to be frank. We were competitive for some points, but it taught us that like the adjustments, like how quick we had to adjust, like keying up on certain players, strategizing. It it kind of propelled our game, I think, faster than probably most of the teams in D2 that season. I mean, if I remember correctly, like Brawl, like that was like their second or third year in D2, so they had like struggled the year before and said, we're not going to semi, we're going to stay again. Phalanx was in there too, but those practices, I think we learned so much about our team, and then we were really kind of like bonding, and the core was kind of starting to establish itself. And I remember early on, like we were talking with Al, owner of X, and he told us like how important it is to have a core and have that established, because like you run the Titans, like you got your 3 or 4 guys that are there every event, are consistently there, and then one guy can, he can play 3 events, can play 2 events. If you have that kind of core stabilized outside of kind of the fringe players that can play or when they can't play, as long as that that core is kind of propelling itself and continue to bond and continue to get better as a unit, you're going to be successful. And that's kind of what started to happen between that first event, the diesel practices, and the rest of the year. Now we went to Cup and kind of I don't know if it's like a trend, we find a way to like shit the bed every time, but the first 4 events we were really rolling, and honestly we would have, I still think to this day we would have won the New Jersey event. We didn't even know how to play the field till like the last the last match, but we threw that one away against Blast Camp. So I still think about those points in those matches to this day. But yeah, it goes back to that foundation, the core players kind of bonding, being able to like play and kind of read off your guy in front of you and understand, like, I can read Taylor's body language of like he's getting squirrely, like something's not good, he's getting a lot of pressure, or when he's like kind of up on his feet, like I know he's about to make a move down the field. So that really started to kind of solidify. And we were also, when I tell you, we were playing all the time. I mean, Friday evenings when the layout would drop, we would have it up at X, so we were shooting barrels on Fridays and drilling all day Saturday, and then playing out of our bananas on Sunday.
Yeah. I mean, having that core is huge. Like even for the Titans, I know like whenever you're going into an event, you get your bracket, you start looking at the rosters, right? Like, okay, where, what's their experience level like? Where have they been? What have they done? And for me, if I see a bunch of players, like you've got like a huge range, like, oh, they have a D1 player, like, but it's their, they're a bunch of throw togethers, maybe they're all like high ranked or they have a lot of points or whatever, but they're like, don't really play together. That's whatever. If I see a roster where like 5 or 6 of their players have the exact same points.
Yeah, that's the scary.
Yeah, like, and that's what the Titans roster is right now. Like 5 of us have the exact same points, and the guys that don't, it's maybe they missed one event here or there in the last 2 years, but other than that, like we run 9 guys. We've probably had at least 7 of them all at the event together for the like going on 4 years now.
And that's probably unheard of. I mean, in our 2019 season, we had 6 guys, plus or minus like Lane Norris when he could be there. We had 6 guys, and we ran that like it was a skeleton squad, like the infamous guys. I mean, Taylor rotated in, and then it was really the same 5 every point. And sure, we ran like low bodies, but I'd almost argue that like the low bodies is what made us, sure, we didn't get rest, whatever. That's what made us so good, is because like there wasn't anybody else, and it was the same guys playing every single point. So as like Jay in front of me learned the field better, I was learning the field behind him. Same thing with like Anthony and Linaldi. They were like fine tuning that muscle between them when they were playing. So it's looking at an APPA roster, everyone's got the same points. It's going to either go one way or the other, and I'm going to probably say it's going to be a
grind more than likely, right?
Exactly right.
Yeah. And I mean, with you guys running low bodies, like you're just stacking reps, right? And that's something that I talk about a lot on the show. Is just maximize the amount of reps that you can get at every possible opportunity, and that definitely goes a long way. So, kind of moving on from that 2019 season, this one's brought to us by Mariachi Aglas de Oro. So after 2019, for those that have been around for a while, they remember the cut alert post, which announced your departure from the team. It wasn't like, bad blood or anything like that. It was very, very tongue in cheek, but it's still like, was the end of your time, at least at that time, with competition. So what was it that prompted your departure there?
Yeah. I'll be honest. I also commissioned that from Yosh, and then I sent it. Yeah, and I sent it to Dallas. I finished the 2019 season, man, and at that point, personal life with work was starting to really pick up, and I was starting to excel there, and it was requiring more of my time. I'll be honest. It goes back to like what you were saying earlier. I was kind of burned out at the end of that season. I had played the most paintball that I had played in my entire life that year and the season before. I mean, I was making considerably less money than I'm probably making, I was making today. So finances were fine, but it wasn't in any place like I am now where I can, afford it much easier. And I like went to the guys. I was just like, I got to take like a breather. Like it's just this season kind of took a lot out of me. The flying, the flights, the practices, 3-4 times, 3-4 times a month, and then you're playing both weekends on that month. It's like if you want to have a personal life outside of paintball, you like want to go on a date on a Saturday or Sunday. Like it's the likelihood is not going to happen. So yeah, the 2019 season came. The guys were moving up to semi-pro at that point. I kind of looked at, I put it on paper and was like, I know that the commitment that's going to be needed to play semi-pro, because, the goal was to go pro. It was to play a year or 2 years in semi-pro and get the pro bid. And I think to this day, like, considering all the guys I was on the team, it would have been capable. Two of them, Trent's now on Aftershock, and has played on the Ironman. So, apparently we had guys that were pro capable or are pro. But I knew that the commitment level was going to have to ratchet up. The practices were going to even get longer, and we were going to travel more. And I had to just be realistic and say, I can't make that commitment. And then I just didn't feel like it was fair to be half in at that point, especially when I knew what they were playing for, the pro spot. That playing 2 events and playing every other practice or every other weekend, I just didn't want to half-ass it, because semi-pro at that point is like you're right there on the brink of being pro. So I kind of stepped away at that point, and then they went and picked up Marky, which I was like, awesome, another pro guy, another pro, soon to be pro guy at that point. But yeah, it was so much paintball that I burned myself out that year. And I just didn't have anything left in the tank to play the following season.
Yeah, I mean, there's no shame in that by any means. Like, if anything, it's awesome that you were able to be honest with yourself in that way. Like, hey, I cannot play at this level and have these expectations for results with the commitment that I know that I'm gonna max myself out at.
Right.
And
yeah, we were gonna call it insecurity or something, but I knew that at that point, Dallas and Brandon, the team was so serious that a lot of things were getting kind of taken care of that maybe a normal player in the D4 ranks, you're all paying your own way, right? But we had some financial support, so it was a serious thing. And I just knew in my core, I couldn't sit there in that huddle and be telling guys hey, you missed that shot, or you need to get up the field when I'm there for half the practices. It's hypocritical, and my commitment wasn't there at that point. So it made sense for me to say I gotta bow out for now until I can come back when it's ready. And obviously COVID hit, and everyone kind of had their own separate path at that point.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was a shame that COVID kind of put a quick halt to that semi-pro year, but
right.
Yeah, it happens. Well, pandemics, not exactly.
Right.
But,
exactly. not,
but yeah, it's cool to see kind of everybody come back, and talking more about the reasons for coming back, like this one's brought to us by Paintball Kumite, Colt Roberts. So this isn't the first large break in your playing career. You had one from 2014 to 2017, and then this one from 2019 until now, essentially. So what was it that has brought you back into the competition side of paintball each time?
Yeah, 2014. I mean, I was in college at that point, and it was kind of like grind time to finish and graduate on time. So it was no more. At that point, I was going to LSU. The field I played at was an hour away. I was a busboy at a restaurant. Like paintball was not in the cards for me my junior and senior year. I was doing an internship. I was really trying to get my degree, get out, kind of start my career. I played when I could, maybe once a month. But I had to kind of put a pause on it after my sophomore year because, it's college. At some point, you've not that paintball's not serious. It's tough to balance the two if it's not that accessible. And like I was saying earlier, paintball is becoming more accessible in Louisiana. But at that time, it wasn't like there was a field in Baton Rouge I could drive 10 minutes to. I really had to like set aside time and make sure that I did all my studies and stuff before I was going to drive and make the trip home, go play, and then come back. So that was the reason for my pause there. And then obviously, we've kind of talked about the pause in the last 3 or 4 years. But what's brought me back is, I mean, I miss the competitive side of it, definitely. For someone that's played competitive sports their whole life, like, played football in high school and baseball growing up as a kid, to now be like 30 and I don't really have anything else to be competitive at, other than maybe like riding bikes or something, or if I want to go run a marathon. Paintball has been something that's just been easy for me to kind of just jump right back into and kind of pick up where I left off. And plus, like, I've just made so many lifelong friends through this sport that when 3 or 4 of us finally kind of have the resources and the time to like say, you know what, like, could we do this again for a little bit? It's like, shit, why don't we? So that's it. It was kind of like the stars aligning again for us, like Taylor, Dallas, Brandon, and I, to say like, all right, like, it's been 2 or 3 years since COVID. Like everyone's kind of gone their separate ways. A few of us have had kids, not me. But we've got the time now. We've got the bandwidth that we can like dedicate this to again, and we all love it. We love being around each other. So it was like it was just natural for us to kind of fire it back up. So also maybe our points are kind of back down, so we can play D3 again.
There it is.
That maybe had something to do with it, or kind of added to it. But yeah, that's the reasoning.
Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, your points are down and you can play local. That's huge.
Yeah, like if last year, if I wanted to play, I would have either screwed a team playing because my points would have been high and they would have had to either, someone would have not had to play, or I'd have to be on a bunch of guys that are D4 playing in Premier or something. And it's like, I'm not doing that. Yeah.
Right. But Dallas came back, he guessed, with the Dragoons last event.
Yep.
I think the year before that,
he played one event with you guys.
Yeah, he played one event with us. That was right when I got injured. So unfortunately, I didn't get to play with him. But yeah, I mean, Dallas has always kind of been around, like in and out. But now it seems like, like you said, the stars are aligned. But, even though you weren't competing this whole time, you still stayed very heavily involved in the paintball scene, like mainly as a referee for the USXBL. So this one's brought to us by Jared Sherman at TexanHemp.com. So what was it that made you want to stick around in this capacity?
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying earlier, I've always like tried to stay close to paintball in some capacity, and this was kind of a natural one. Greg had reached out to me because we had refed an event as Grit for USXBL a few years ago, and it was part of like sponsorship packages and stuff. And so Greg asked me to ref the USXBL in San Antonio. I think the first one, which was that I had done like I don't know, it was like 2020. Like it was like when COVID was rampant and like we all had to wear face masks, if you remember that event.
Yeah.
And he was like running around screaming at people if they didn't have a face mask on. And so that was like the first event that, and I was just because I was local, and you know at that time they were kind of still like putting the refs together from the local area if they weren't flying them in. And so, you know, Taylor and I at that point, it was like the only time we really got to see each other and hang out. And so we kind of just like committed at that event to Greg to like ref the rest of the year. And it was, like I said, an opportunity for us to kind of stay close and still like be in the mix, and then get paid to do it. And it was, honestly, it is kind of fun. I mean, as much as like people hate on it, the ref crew the guys are actually enjoyable, a good time to be around, and I enjoy their time. And now, I mean, the ref crew it's honestly kind of sick. The amount of money that I guess Hinman now spends to fly in these refs from the NXL is wild. For a local event, you're getting NXL like head refs on the pro field reffing your D4 USXBL match. I don't think you don't even get that in an NXL event. You get like Joe Schmo from, you know, the 7-Eleven that they've got hired. Sorry, right. Tom Cole, but like that's the reality. So that's always like one thing I never heard. Like we'd be at Fit and, you know, teams would lose and they're like, oh, that's those Paintball Fit refs. And I'm like, there's not one ref. Maybe there's like one guy on this field that is affiliated with Paintball Fit.
There's like Brandon Allison. That's it. He's the only guy.
Right, and he's on like the D5 3v3, you know, reffing like the walk-on guys that are playing their first ever tournament, or D6, like something where there's no one's got skin in the game. But yeah, the reffing for USXBL is fun and it was enjoyable, and you know the mic'd up stuff was fun to do with Yosh, because I like to have fun, and you know this, I like to troll around, so it was an opportunity to kind of like have a comedic point to it. But yeah, when Greg asked me at the beginning of the season to do it, and I was just like, I can't now. It works, you know, too busy. But I knew that Grit was kind of on the horizon coming back, so I was trying to commit to that.
Yeah, I know. Like for me, like getting to know all of these refs, like I'm friends with Andrew Howe. He's the head ref of the NXL Pro field. Like that's something I wouldn't have had otherwise. Right. So like getting to know more about that part of the game, like A, it'll make you a better player because you actually know what you're talking about in the rules. B, like that group of guys are incredible. So
yeah, it's I have to say, so having now reffed, I guess like 3 seasons in the USXBL, 9 out of 10 times penalties, whatever it is, disagreements, controversy, it's all because the player is misinformed. Yep. They do not know the actual rules. Either they don't read the rule book, which like I never read the rule book as a player, so guilty as charged. But they either never read the rule book, never went to the captain's meeting to understand like, oh, my barrel's got to be touching before the point starts, or like I can't tag up, or if I get shot and then shoot a guy, that's a major, you know. Like 9 out of 10 times that's the penalties, and that's where like all the controversy comes, is the people that don't understand the actual penalty. But Ahal and Adam are like the most stand-up guys. Like that's why I'm like kind of excited to play, is like I ref with them, they're gonna ref me, I know I'm gonna get a fair match. Honestly, they should probably throw a major on me 9 out of 10 times, especially if like Leo shoots me and it's on camera, you know, like you know, who knows, man.
Oh man, I love it. Yeah, I know that with the reffing thing, like I still can't believe that there are guys out there that still think of like the obvious versus unobvious hit rule. Like that hasn't been in the rule book since like 2018. Like, and it's crazy that people don't read the rule book, where it's like, imagine if you were playing basketball and you got upset because you got called on a double dribble.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. At its core, like, I don't know if this can help dispel rumors for the next event coming up. A minor penalty is if I'm a ref and I'm looking left, okay? Looking left, I'm looking at the Dorito side. I look to the right and there's a hit on your pod pack, it is a minor penalty. because it is part of your equipment. You as a player, as a being, are supposed to be in charge of your equipment. Now, if I watch the paint hit your pack and I call you out, different. But if I look over and you have a hit, I don't know if it's been there for a minute or 10 seconds, 0.1 seconds. That is a minor every single time. And that's where like so many people don't understand, like, why am I getting a minor? Like, I didn't shoot my gun, blah, 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 blah. Insert excuse through the wazoo. But that is it. And then the major is honestly either you get shot and you're like, either trying to get rid of it, whatever, and or you go shoot someone else. That's the biggest thing is you get shot in your pack and then you run a guy down. It's going to be a red every time.
Yeah. I feel like I know the refs have tried to like put the language out there to make it a little bit more like simple to understand, less controversy. So,
and honestly, like I might be speaking for like Ahau and Adam and them, but like if they jam you for a penalty, if you ask them, they will like tell you exactly why. And sure, you can argue it, but at least they're being definitive in saying like, hey, like here's the line in the sand, like you got the major because this is what I saw you do. And at least right? NXL, I don't know how many times I got a penalty and like either the guy couldn't talk to me or the head ref wouldn't talk to me. So kudos to the USXPL.
Yeah, and they'll talk to you like,
right.
Like even if you're at local event NXL. Like I remember we were playing on the finals field, and Ahau like he just comes and talks to me. He's like, "Hey, that guy, he's getting a warning for overshooting.
Right.
If he does it again, he's gone." Like things like that. Like, hey, he could have just rung him up right there, right? Or if I had tried to just like go full on like aggression on that, he probably would have rung him up. But just have those like simple conversations and like understand, hey, we're just like all here for the game of paintball. They're trying to make sure everybody's safe and it's a fair sport. And
I think somehow disillusion in paintball, like people think that like the refs are out to get you, and it honestly it's
that
really
is
not the case.
Fastest way to get knocked out in an event is if you have that mentality.
Right, like why would I want to run up to the 50 brick and check you, and throw a penalty and just get tattooed by the other team? I don't want to throw a penalty, right? Like that is not the case. They are trying to call a fair game for you because you are paying for them to be there and you're paying them for the day. They do have your best interests.
For sure. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, especially depending on the events that you go to, like maybe you're at an NXL and you're on like, the worst or the second worst field or, that happens where it's like
or something.
Yeah. And then it's like, I can understand if you're like, hey, these refs are inexperienced. It's just going to be bad or no calls just in general on the field. Like if you understand like how the field's going to be played, then that's one thing. But if it's like, hey, fair. it's a 2-on-1, it's their team and the refs specifically against our team, then that like you've eliminated yourself. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy at that point.
Right. Yeah. How many times it's like, oh, the refs screwed us. And it's like,
right.
I can tell you this, there was 3 other points that you threw away. And there was one that we had to step in. So don't put it on us.
Yeah, no, don't blow the 4-on-2 next time, and then you maybe have grounds to argue.
Yeah. And that's a good point. I mean, even if it's like D5 and there's going to be no calls, at least if you're getting no calls, the likelihood the other team's getting no calls. So it is kind of fair at that point. Like it is an equal playing field if it's going to be inexperienced refs. So, and like 10-man, I mean, it's 10-man. I don't think anyone is out there to try and win a 10-man championship at the NXL. So you're going to get that style of reffing.
For sure. So kind of speaking of the mic'd up videos, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about those. So Yosh Designs has worked with you several videos now. I was just wondering, what was it like in the moment to film those? And like, have you gotten to have any like fun or interesting interactions with anybody as a result?
Yeah, it's funny because like each time when I tell you like each one that we filmed and I jammed someone for a penalty, I didn't throw a penalty probably for the 3 matches before that and the 3 matches after. It's as if like Yosh comes at the right time and films the right match that like you guys gonna want to like ride the line. But he had like come up to me and suggested it at the I guess like the first USXL that I had reffed, or maybe it was the second one. And I was like, shit, like why not? Like let's do it. And a lot of it is just like I'm just like kind of saying what's in my head, and it's comedic, right? There's no like real rhyme or reason to it. But it's been fun because like the year or two after, like the D5 kid will come up to me and is like, they either recognize like my goggles or like I'll wear like the same ref number, and they're like, oh wait, you're that guy. Or I'll go home and play at like my home field, or go play at another field, and like someone just like recognizes my last name because it's kind of like unique, and they'll be like, wait, are you the ref video? So it's it's funny, and it's like something great to laugh about, and I love like reading the comments on them because like honestly, it's just like seeing people laugh is probably the best thing. But when I tell you, every time Yosh filmed, that was the match that I jammed people. I'm being dead honest.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, it do be like that sometimes, but
Right.
yeah, those videos are great, and I think that let me see if I can find one here. Yeah, plugged in. It's got the one. You have a few here on YouTube. It looks like one of them has 18,000 views, another one has 17,000 views. So
Oh wow.
definitely very popular series. Which I mean, that's not even like the video that has the most views. Like Yosh Design's most viewed video, which is it was a 2019 Vegas practice between AC Dallas and the Outlaws, and then you guys versus Diesel, and
Yeah.
that video has almost 2 million views now.
Yeah, that's Mark Johnson famously yelling at us. That lovely snippet at the beginning of the thing, and Dallas
the
is
hook
like,
of all hooks.
right. And Dallas is like, you're winning every point.
Oh, that was Dallas in that? Okay, I didn't even realize
that was Dallas. Yeah, they cut out so much of that, but that was like the climax of the. And like Mark's a passionate guy. He's if he's not yelling, he's probably like not playing paintball. But yeah, that was a funny weekend, and I mean we still laugh about that to this day, even when I see Mark. So yeah, it's all love.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, shoot, got almost 2 million people watching, so
right.
You got.
It's funny though because
right.
I think it went viral. Like obviously not in the paintball community because I don't think there's 2 million people, but all the comments I think on that video are like, oh, they're throwing their bullets on the ground. And so it's like it obviously went viral in some like random algorithm.
Yeah, so I mean, talking about Grit, speaking of this one's brought to us by 71 Design. So Grit, they've silently, I would say, have made a return. As far as I've seen online, there hasn't been any like huge postings or anything. Many of the same names on the old roster are making a comeback, like Dallas, Taylor, Dallas. Who else? I think
Brandon Peters is back. Lane Norris is here when he can. He's always kind of got like an open door with us because he's family.
Kevin.
Kevin's from the Grid X time. And then outside of that, we've got the two Doriaks, so Drake and Dallas. And just most recently, we've got Cam that came over from the D4 Titans. So the core's there from the OG days, minus Anthony and Jay. But yeah, it's back together, trying to kind of compete like we did. I think we want to play the USXBL. It's a shame that Bunkerfest isn't this season or isn't around this year, because that would have been one to kind of like sprinkle in, because it would have been local most likely. And then if we do play an NXL, it would probably be if there is a Dallas event or a Round Rock event that hopefully isn't underwater, knock on wood, next year. And then if we got frisky, we would potentially play a World Cup, but I wouldn't put that on I wouldn't sign my name to that. So
gotcha. So it's mostly like just your plans are to stay local, but slowly ramp it back up.
Yeah, and I mean we enjoy it enough of that we're willing to take some kids, whatever you call them, some younger talent, and kind of give back to them and build the team up. Right? Are we going for a pro spot like we were in 2019? No, I don't think any of the guys would want that because it's a huge commitment. But we enjoy it and we love the game enough that we want to try and bring some talent up with us and kind of mold them into, here's my thing. If someone can come play with Grit and we can help kind of springboard them to go play in the games and then go play at a higher level, I'll do that anytime. That's I think that's what we should do as kind of the community and as like ambassadors for the sport. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm looking at the time right here. I know that you kind of said we're kind of getting to the end of what you can commit to. So just one last question before we wrap it up. So this one's brought to us by Hydra. So Grit, they're signed up to play next weekend. I know you personally have told me that you are unable to make this one, unfortunately, but as far as everybody else, like what can we expect?
Yeah, so I unfortunately can't make this one. I have a personal obligation at the end of the month. But I think what you're going to see with Grit is maybe a little bit of a revenge from some of the guys. They want to get back out there, kind of get the name back out in the mix. I do think what you'll see is you're going to get some competitive play from us. Are we going to go smash people and win the event? We haven't played in 3 or 4 years, and we've been kind of hanging out on the couch. But I think you're going to get good matches from us. I mean, we'll probably end up playing you guys at some point if we get you in a draw. But we're going to be competitive, and I think we're going to be a tough team, a formidable opponent, as they would say. I know we've got Brandon kind of at the helm from a game planning and strategizing standpoint, and I mean, I would argue that he's one of the best coaches in the divisionals now that we're kind of back on the scene out there, just from a kind of an X's and O's standpoint. So I think you'll see that. I think what you're going to see is we're hopefully going to be quick. I think we've got some younger talent. Some of the guys at the core were a little older now. We're more 2s and 3s. We've had maybe a couple more Modelos than we should. But we hopefully have some kind of the young killers on the front that are going to kind of do most of the chaos, and we'll kind of just clean up, and I'll hit the buzzer at the end. So yeah, we're looking forward to it. I think talking earlier about small goals and just from coming from a hiatus and getting back into it, right? I think our goal is get out of the prelims and play in. It's like broken up these days now. It's not, you don't play all on Sunday. You play on Saturday. You play on Sunday. So it's to make the Sunday play and have a competitive match. So that's going to be our goal at the Open, the X Factor one, and then obviously the next one's at Fit. So we'll see where maybe our goal is there after this first event. So
for sure. I mean, anybody who's knows, and if you don't know now, Grit is definitely not a team that you can sleep on. I know in the elite division for this event, there's, I think, 3 teams that are coming in for the first time. You guys, us, we haven't played in USXBL in the elite division all season. And then I think Utah Bro Army as well. Yeah. But like Jackpot has won back-to-back. Titans, even though we haven't played USXBL at all this year, like obviously we're the series leaders for the NXL, so you can't count us out. You can't count out the Beefy Boys. They went second place in D2. Yeah, they got second place in D2 it came down to 1-on-1 sudden death in the finals in the Lone Star event. So you can't count those guys out. Obviously Grit is a storied name. You've got and the rest of these teams like Houston Zone, I think made the finals at the last one. Notorious is a strong program, so like it's gonna be a tough event.
So I mean D3, man. I know it's like Premier or Elite, whatever they call it, but it's D3. Like let's say what it is. Again, man, like that is like good, solid competition. You got a D2 team that won the event. It did what we did. That is playing in the elite division, right? Like Beefy Boys, I would call them greed, but I mean, they're killers. I've been watching them the last 2 or 3 seasons. I mean, Bonner and them are all seasoned. They know what they're doing.
I do want to clarify that because Beefy Boys is actually a split from Greed, so Bonner's not on that. So, and that was at the start of the year.
Okay.
So,
wow. All right. So see, this is what I get. Like I don't like rep one event and I'm in the dark of, all the
Things move
paintball
faster in here, man.
Yeah. Okay. Well, news to me. So,
But
yeah, I mean, the elite division it's no joke. I mean, it is the top of the Texas paintball outside of the D2 teams.
Yeah, I think anybody who's trying to place bets is trying to steer clear from the elite division. There's probably you probably could make a case for any one of these teams to win the event.
Yeah. I think you'll have the top 6 teams you're gonna have all good matches, and then you'll probably have your bottom 2 that'll kind of flush out, right? They might win one match or something, but I think the top 6 you'll have close matches.
Shoot, even the top 8, and the only teams that I would put at the bottom 2 is just because I don't know them. I don't know the Utah Bro Army. I don't really know the Bricktown Bucks, but
I've seen the Bro Army in NXL, but again, it's been years, so it could be the same guy with it.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And I think another element these days is the blind layout. That is, you don't have the flexibility to go and practice all your bounce shots the weekend before, or to run 100 points on the snake side. So the teams that can dissect the layout quickly can understand kind of the blind shots, where you can kind of stand off the break and shoot somewhere. They're going to have success early on. And then it's Sunday paintball is, at that point, most teams know the layout. And so it just comes down to kind of all right, man on man, mano to mano.
For sure. Well, I'm definitely excited for it. I know that you guys are excited to officially launch the revival. So, it should be some good games. Looking forward to seeing you guys out there.
All right. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So we're going to just cut to the close here. So this final question is brought to us by Compete, which is Jell Stewart's brand. Message him on Facebook or Instagram. Mention In the Pits for 10% off of your order of soft goods. So Pierce, thank you so much for your time. Do you have any last shout outs or things you'd like to say before we sign off?
It's been a pleasure to be on here. I just want to say, I'm happy to be back and playing and being competitive. If anyone wants to bring me a breakfast sandwich at the event, I'm a bacon, egg, and cheese kind of guy. I think a tortilla makes the best breakfast sandwich. I know that was a question that I've gotten before, so put that to bed. But yeah, I'm happy to be back, kind of be in the scene, and looking forward to a good year, or a good rest of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know personally, I'm looking forward to seeing you at the field more often.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Christian.
Sir. All right. So I think that does it for our show. Thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in. Be sure to go follow Pierce at Pierce Dougie on Instagram, all one word. So what other guests would you like to see on the show? Be sure to leave a comment down below. While you're at it, hit that subscribe button. The show goes live weekly here on youtube.com/@inthepitspaintballpodcast, and recordings are posted to YouTube, Amazon, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify the next day. I want to give one more shout out to a sponsor. We didn't get to his question tonight, but shout out to Get Dat Shot, who's a photographer, videographer out of the Valley here in Texas. Message him if you were looking for media coverage at the upcoming USXBL event. He just recently got his pilot, I guess, drone license. So he's going to have drone footage. Nice. Hit him up if you're looking for footage at the upcoming USXBL event. So to shout out the rest of my partner and sponsor tier subscribers on Patreon: FU Athletics, Paintball Comité, Compete, BEM Raps, Hydra, XTPL Events, Mariachi Aguilas de Oro, Podrunners Union, 71 Designs, TexanHemp.com, and QBRofficial.com. So we will see you guys next week for episode 109, the official preview leading up to the USXBL event next weekend. Pierce, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.